Bum ba dum bum bum ba dum bum ba dum bum ba dum bum bum ba dum 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 bum ba dum. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for the round of Comic Chat. We are doing a lot of these actually. So yeah, it's almost got to the point where I've got like new ideas for how to do them. If for no other reason than I found some Marvel books I was thinking of going over, and it's not that I avoid Marvel, it's just that very few would sort of like get you. So we got the Doctor Strange one, and like two others. So we'll see where we go with that one. Anyway, we've got Batman White Knight presents Generation Joker. We last left off with this story. We saw Jack Napier was back in the form of a artificial intelligence technology and took Jackie and Bryce off to see what made him, what made Jack Jack, not what made Jack Joker. Technically, kind of, sort of, not really. But anyway, Harley's freaking out because, yeah. And so she's going after him. She's got Bruce to go after him. And then they went to like this place, which actually was pretty much a nightclub, a seedy nightclub, where Harleen was an exotic dancer. So I don't think that was appropriate to bring children there, but whatever. And then it turns out Scarface had taken Wesker's daughter, and the new Scarface duo is there, and they're out for revenge against Jack. So that's where we are now. So Jack and his kids are trying to escape that. It's really intense. It would be intense, but at the same time, it's like there's these dolls. So I think it's scarier than it is like dangerous, but whatever. Jack goes whole like, that wasn't me, that was Joker. And Scarface is like, no one cares. No one believes that for a moment. And Penny, Wesker's daughter, presumably, she lost her dad. Who really cares whether or not it was Jack or Joker at this point? He's responsible for both. Alright? At some point, he has to be. Like, the whole point of White Knight is sort of trying to make that distinction, but at the end of the day, it's still the same body, just different person. It's a Jekyll and Hyde thing all over again. But anyway, Jackie's able to remind Jack that, hey, you control a car, get it down here so we can get out of here. And that happens, but before they go off, Scarface remembers like, hey, with all this technology here, dead doesn't really stay dead if you know the right people, implying that there's someone else out there that's coming back. Meanwhile, Harleen is meeting up with Marion, aka Neo Joker, and Ivy, and sort of explain exactly what is going on. So apparently, Ivy and Marion have become a couple, so everyone gets what they want. There's a Harley and Ivy couple, and apparently, Marion wants to help look for Bryce, because they've been exchanging emails and talking, and Harley's like, I'm sorry, what? So, yeah, because those two aren't on the best of terms. I think they sort of broke even in the Harley story, but yeah, whatever, for the most part, you don't talk to someone's kids like that. Anyway, so, she's going to help. Then we see, pretty much, Jack's like, okay, we should probably just take you home. It's been crazy already, so let's take you home, call it a day. And they're like, no, Dad. Actually, they use the word Dad, and that's what gets him. That's what gets him, because he really wants them to call him Dad. So it's like, fine, get in the car. And then we cut to Diana and John Stewart, who are part of this other task force, and they're the ones that got Bruce out of jail with the understanding that he goes after a man from Kansas, so Superman. And meanwhile, they are looking for Bruce's and Harley's kids, or like Jackie and Bryce, because they first of all, they want the tech, and if Jack Napier is the one behind it, they can't just take his kids. They have to make sure he's safe. Otherwise, that's not going to work. And they owe Bruce because he's going after this whole Superman thing, or whatever they're going to call it. So then we see them Jack taking his kids to his grave, which is weird. But we also see exactly the kind of state the grave is in. Like, a lot of people are still mad about Jack Napier. Whatever good he tried to do, he did ultimately end up making things worse. And in Gotham City, that takes a lot. But there is real change coming because of what Jack Napier did. So it's one of those take-or-leave-it things. But he also mentions, the Oswald, Crane, the people he used to hang out with. And Jack does feel bad that they're all dead because of him. Even on some level, Joker just used them for money and resources, there was a certain amount of camaraderie there. But Bryce notices that Two-Face doesn't have a grave. and he was there. So everyone thinks he did die in the Azrael massacre. But the question is now, maybe he's the one with the tech that's like coming back from the dead and whatnot. And Jack's like, you know what, let's just stop this here, let's get in the car. Jackie's had enough of her dad trying to tell him what to do, so she puts him in the flash drive. And before they go, Bryce wants to clean up the grave, but then they're met by Joker's thugs. And Joker's thugs think that they're messing with Jack's grave, so they decide to rough him up. And it just goes on from there. Bruce, meanwhile, sneaks out of the headquarters he's in, knocking out a Wally West. I think that's Wally. Yes, Agent West. Good. And he goes off, and Marion and Harley end up at the cemetery where Jack Napier's grave is. They track down, hey, look, there's a trace here with those infrared glasses. It turns out Jackie and Bryce are driving off like madmen down the street like Mr. Toad, and there's fire, there's brimstone. It's pretty much an average day out with the Joker family. It's so sad. But Bryce is able to like get them all out of this by pointing out that, hey, we're the sons of Joker. Well, this is sons of Jack Napier. They're like, oh, the prodigal sons have returned. Joker's kids have come to lead the Jokers. And that's how the comic ends. Ultimately, this issue was alright. It's not great. I really think this universe is sort of starting to peter out, which is fine. 3 great stories. Well, 4 great stories. 3 great stories, 1 alright story. It's fine, really. I think this really is that sort of serious story. This isn't written by Sean Gordon Murphy, so that's a thing. Well, it looks like it's co-written, but I think this is mostly just the work of Collins and McCormick. Oh, good lord, I ruined their names. I think it also depends on how invested you are in Joker's kids. I'm more interested in Bruce and Harley at this point, because that dynamic is just so fun and interesting that these kids just sort of don't work, and Jack should just stay dead. Like, I get the appeal of it, but nah. But it'll be interesting to see more of Marion. The Neo Joker story was weird and hilarious and dark as to how that other Harley came to be. Next, we have Superman issue 5. So we last left off with this. Shaban, Silver Banshee, was trying to, like, you know, not be terrible. She's just Banshee. Is Silver Banshee in Marvel? Banshee, we'll just call her that. Oh, it's right there on the cover. I feel so bad. So anyway, Silver Banshee has been trying to lead up in the up and up, but she seems to be under control of Dr. Farm, a.k.a. the bad guy of this era. And before they could really get the fight, Jimmy Olsen came in and said, "No, Superman, I love her." And everyone's like, what? What if I told you Jimmy Olsen had that dog in him? That's such a weird video. So anyway, we get a flashback to how the two of them met. And it's actually really sweet, really tender how they sort of met on the streets. They both have a love for Retro. She loves his bow tie. And they just, like, even when she revealed that, hey, I'm Silver Banshee, she's like, yeah, I don't care. Alright? I love you. Like, it's cool. We'll still be roommates and best friends. And we can make out and be a couple and whatnot. So they're dating. It's all kind of great and whatnot. And, yeah, so... then we cut to the present where, you know, he just outs it. I love her, and she's like, oh, you love me? And what happened? Well, in Whoville, they said that Silver Banshee's heart grew to 3 sizes that day. Lex is here and is like, oh my god, this is not happening. This is not happening. Okay, that's great and all, but let's focus here. Superman tries to get involved, and Shaban is like, we are having a moment! And she says, hey, I love you too. But the reason she's doing this is because the powers that be that made that, you know, amped her up, said that if she didn't do this, they'd kill him. So, like, okay, I get this. We see where we're coming at from here. And so now Superman and Lex like, okay, so we gotta figure out what to do with this. Lex like, well, since you don't want to kill her, we have to find a way to deal with what's going on with her without killing her. And luckily, Supercore is on their way with something, but it's a gun, and Superman's like, well, broke it. I feel so sorry for Mercy. Oh, but they got jetpacks, so it's alright. So, anyway, it turns out the device can still be used, just not in gun form. But Shaban's like, okay, I can't go, I'll go where I can't hurt anyone anymore, so she's sorry, and Superman wants to go off, and like, Jimmy's like, no, that's my girl. I'll go with you. And Superman's like, look, Jimmy, it's Superman, like, I'm Superman's best friend. Life is always dangerous, but it's also, then he goes like, hey, pal, would you ever let anything stop you from saving someone you love? And Superman's like, oh god, that is totally my thing. Guys, get me a jetpack for my buddy for my buddy Jimmy Olsen. And they go after her. So really, I actually love this image. This is the epitome of Jimmy Olsen have that dog in him. I'm sorry. I've just been watching a lot of that video. Anyway, she's trying to get away. Like, look, stay away from me. She's like, I don't love you. I lied. He's like, I know you're lying. I love you. And it's like, I don't think I know what I signed up for. You're one of the best pals. You're one of my best pals' greatest enemies. But he knows she's more than that. Like, she laughs during sad movies. She doesn't talk in her sleep. She sings. And I'm like, Jimmy. 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 So anyway, she has to give out one big scream. They're going to use the device to pull out whatever's in her. It's weird. It's like vaguely sort of explained. But it doesn't matter. So they figure out that, hey, it's Dr. Farm and Dr. Farm is behind this, so he goes down to the old lab that Lex was at, and they come face to face with Dr. Farm. And Dr. Farm is like, so, I'm glad you found the place here, so, how you doing? You're not going to stop me. By the way, you need to ask Lex about Project Unchained. Unchained. And that's where that sort of story goes off. Superman, meanwhile, has had some damage done to his hearing, because by default he fought Silver Banshee. They said his hearing will return shortly, but whatever. That's really all just designed to set up this. Alright? So while Superman, well, now as Clark Kent goes with Lois on a double date with Jimmy and Shaban, they sort of like really vibing, really enjoying it. But remember, Superman doesn't have a super hearing anymore, so it's really great for him, because he doesn't have to turn anything off. He doesn't have to mute himself on any bit. Just what he can hear. All he can hear is what's there, and it's great to just be able to hear just that for him. Meanwhile, Lex is about to be stabbed in prison because, the powers that be. And Clark is just vibing. It looks like Superman. And that's how the comic ends. Okay. So, is that 2 for 2 with Superman now? Mixie's Pitalik, courtesy of Doc Manhattan, and now presumably Lex goes to Big Farm. Every time Superman's enemies need him, he always just leaves them on red. So ultimately, this was great. Jimmy Olsen, I think, did the heavy lifting this story, as well as Silver Banshee. I think it's really fun how we're not just giving these enemies new power-ups, but we're exploring them more. Like in Action Comics, we have the whole story with Metallo and his sister, and as well as Cyborg Superman, what he was going through. Now we've had Silver Banshee and her sort of starting her life fresh, which I think is really cool that we're doing that with her. I'm trying to figure out what Project Unchained is, and if we ever figure it out. I'm pretty sure Lex isn't going to die. I think the whole point of this will be he's going to super guilt trip Superman into listening to him, but also Superman's going to try to get himself about Project Unchained. What would that be? I think it's definitely Superman related, so we'll see where that goes. Or he'll still be out. Next issue, Superman will get Mercy to tell him about Project Unchained. Who knows? Overall, though, alright story. And again, Jimmy Olsen did the heavy lifting this one, which is great. Finally, we have Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow. And so when we last left off with this story, Superboy said, screw you guys. I'm going off into space, finding my own way in the world. And he came across this knockoff Guardians of the Galaxy group, and he decided to help them fight off the Dominators, because what that group is basically a bunch of war toys. Alright, a bunch of experiments bred for war, and they escaped like, no more, we're going to destroy the Dominators and all their weapons factories, because they make living weapons. They take happily innocent people in the universe, or possibly not innocent people, and experiment on them and turn them into horrible monsters that only bred for one thing: killing. Anyway, so this story picks up right where we left off, with Connor just sitting at the top of the spaceship and just knocking back laser bolts like a badass, and I love it. I love it. And really, there's not much to this opening sequence. It's more like Connor just sort of reflecting on what does it sort of be back in this, and it is a great feeling for him. But even more so, sort of, he still gets in a little over his head, and they have to bail him out. So that to me is really great. Connor can't be the one that has all the answers to this, because then it gets a bit boring. You can sort of it gets a bit more predictable. But the idea that Connor can get in over his head a bit because he's a little cocky, I think works, because it still makes the rest of the team still viable. So anyway, when they go through, everyone is sort of alright, and they're alright with Connor joining the Cosmoteers. And because he joined the Cosmoteers, because of his approach, like, hey, we don't have to kill everything, we can be a little bit nicer to people, you know, build a brand, build an image, have a reputation, because people that like you will open up more. It's not just enough to save them, you gotta help them. And Trave and Traw is still sort of holding out on him, and I think that's a bit sad, but you sort of get it. It sort of creates a nice vibe, but Connor's also called out the fact that, hey, you sort of left your world as a superhero to be a superhero here. This doesn't make sense. It's sort of pointing out that Connor hasn't really gone for a big change, doing exactly what he was doing before. It's almost like this book is sort of pointing out the flaw here. You could have just easily gone to reform Young Justice with Tim and Bart and Cassie, because they're not doing anything. They really aren't. Technically, Tim is, because Chip Zdarsky has decided to really make him important in his Batman run, but Bart Allen's not doing anything important at all. Cassie Sandmark's not doing anything important. Alright? Again, Cassie Sandmark has been replaced, like every other Wonder Woman before her, with another Wonder Woman, while Diana is still allowed to be Wonder Woman, so whatever. So we don't quite see the point of that. So whatever. Connor seems to not like, nah, that's not it. That's not it at all. He's like, hey, let's just go in, help, and, you know, we'll just call you sick our nose and our business even. There you go. So we get, like we said before, like they're going through, fighting the good fight. Meanwhile, the mad scientist for the Dominators getting called out for, like, dude, you're costing us money. You're really messing us up. You're fired. He's like, fine, I'll do my own thing. Experiment 626. I actually, no, I don't know what that is, but I think it has something to do with Traw. So, and the reason I say this is because of what will happen later. So, later on the planet Andono, Traw sort of explains his origins a bit. He is a Daxamite. All right, so a Daxamite is sort of, I think the best way to say it is an offshoot of Kryptonians. So he does get a power up when he's underneath the yellow sun. But the Dominators experiment on him, and he can't do that anymore. Like, his techno powers are the trade-off from that. So he lost his pretty much his Kryptonian boost, or Daxamite boost in this case, for that. And honestly, yeah, that sucks, because especially with Connor, because Connor is everything that he possibly could have been, and he doesn't get to do that. So it explains why he's so frustrated around Connor, to see someone who's doing everything you could have done had you had the chance. Also, the Daxamites are super xenophobic. Super xenophobic. I'm saying that's what he's xenophobic. But yeah, Daxamites, trash people. Trash people. The whole planet. Alright, the only good Daxamite outside of presumably this one, probably not, is, what was it? Why did I remember Artificer's name? It was the Green Lantern. Wow. I feel real bad I can't remember his name. Anyway. So, meanwhile, Traw and Connor sort of hit a sort of nice little moment of understanding with each other, and Connor sort of understands this fight isn't just a fight for him. Traw really does want to make sure that no one else goes through what he did, and they sort of, like, become pals, become buddies, become copacetic. Connor convinces him not to kill anybody, like, hey, we'll call the Green Lanterns, they'll come pick him up, put him in the cells, there we go. Alright? Traw like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. They shake hands like bros, but the two criminals like, dude, we saw what you did, we saw what you put on him. So if you want to keep us quiet, let us go, grease our pockets. Traw's like, nah, man, I got something better for you. So anyway, we later find out that all the calls that were made to the Green Lantern Corps hadn't been made, so he had to call them himself. Traw meets up with his crew and says, guys, it's time. And there you go, understood. And so Connor tells Kelly, like, look, just call the Green Lantern Corps, tell them to come down for this one. And now our story starts to go in full force. Connor confronts Traw, and Traw doesn't seem to want to talk, but then the rest of his crew gets knocked out by something that Connor just barely sees. So we're really interested in seeing where this is going. Meanwhile, the Green Lantern of the sector makes a call in to Oa to explain, hey, those that tip we got, well, it went from an arrest to clearly a murder investigation because those people are dead, and that's how the comic ends. Ultimately, Superboy is alright. Like, I'm still looking forward to seeing the story. Connor is the one I think does the heavy lifting here, which is totally fine. It's his book. The Cosmoteers just aren't that interesting. I would have liked maybe another issue to help us get into the heads of the other members of the crew because I have forgotten their names. They just don't matter. Alright, and if Connor's not going to be dating Cassie and he's got no one else to date, let him hook up with a giant girl, with a giant purple chick. Do it. Do it! Overall, though, fun. I liked it. It was enjoyable. I want to know what the Mad Dominator scientist has planned. And if it really does have something to do with the Daxamites, that would be interesting too, because I think that is the scientist that did experiment on Chaw. So that'll be interesting in itself. Overall, though, alright. Would have liked a bit more pizzazz, but we got a good mystery here, and we're seeing these characters at their who they really are. So there's something else is going on with Chaw. Some other big plan. Maybe he isn't really fighting the good fight after all. Who knows? We'll find out soon. Anyway, with that in mind, just brings the video to close here. If you are new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some other videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.